The Longbox Crusade presents
Action Film Face-Off.
This episode is 2019 versus 1985.
Two films enter.
One film leaves.
Two men enter. One man leaves. Two men enter. One man leaves. Two men enter. One man leaves. Two men enter. One man leaves.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, then go out and get what you're worth. But you got to be willing to take that.
Welcome back to Action Film Face-Off. This is a show where two random years are selected, and my brother brings an action film from one random year. I bring another one. But wait! It's March, so it's martial arts madness. And our random years were given to our regular March guest, Mr. Siskoid. We'll check in with him on just a second. He's going to tell us, what we're covering tonight. But these two films are still going to do battle. They're going to use a variety of criteria, and a champion's going to be crowned by the end of the episode. I am Jared Albrecht, the Death Probe. My co-host is my brother Jason, the Weasel Skull. We're both military combat vets who take our action and fried chicken seriously, but not too seriously. So let's have some fun. Kind of an episode we have here, Jason. I'm double blind fire on this one. Siskoid picked two that I hadn't seen before. What about you, man?
Yeah, I thought he was making these titles up. Never seen either of these films. So double blind for me as well.
All right.
Yes, indeed. We're going to score each of today's films on a scale of 1 to 10 in 5 categories. What are those categories, you ask? Well, they are the story. They are the overall spectacle. They are the best action scene. They're the hero. And they're the villain, and they're still not in that order. If there's one thing that you can count on for consistency's sake in Action Film Face-Off is that we will never, ever do it in that order. But we will always have the deduction round at the end, right? That round for the ridiculous where you can take a point off for anything you think is a low point in either movie. That's about it. Back to you, Jared. Those are the rules.
Dims the rules, and let's talk to our regular martial arts sniper. Our sniper has 1 point to give in each category, so the sniper can sway the scoring by a total of 5 points, or, maybe pressure points, as, he likes to do on the show. Let's meet our sniper. It is return guest, Siskoid from the Fire and Water Podcast Network. Welcome back, Siskoid.
Thanks for having me. Jason, I did try while we were waiting for you. I did try to change up those categories to be in the right order.
He did.
But the guarantee, you have that guarantee, and so Jared fixed it.
He tried. He did.
Yep.
I think Devin tried once, too.
I think he did, too. All right, so I got a question for our sniper. He's return sniper, so I'm going to ask him a more pointed question. I think I've asked him his favorite Jackie Chan films before, and since we have some Sammo Hung happening on this episode, Siskoid, top 3 Sammo Hung films.
I think if I go into the classic era, the more classic era of the 70s and 80s, I really like Millionaire's Express, which has a lot of the cast that we see in this movie. It's got Cynthia Rothrock as well. Yes. You can get it on DVD as Shanghai Express, but the real title was Millionaire's Express. And then I'm going to go older Sammo. The older, Sammo's now, he's never retired. He's still doing choreography. He's still starring in films. He's the villain in Killzone, which is SPL Killzone. Great.
I know that one. Yeah, I've seen that one.
Great in that. And even further, if you will, Ip Man 2 is also the villain in that. Yes. There's a big fight on tables at one point. So, it's hard to beat Ip Man. That whole series is very good. So if I'm going with, and he did the fight choreography for those films. Ooh. So I'm gonna say those are my top 3 in this moment.
Wise choices, sir. Wise choices. Now, before our two films enter the videodome arena, which I'm certain has spikes on it, we are thrilled to kick off this episode with special shout outs to our Crusaders Club members. These are the fine folks who have joined our crusade. They enjoy early access to special Longbox episodes. They get priority seating to be on shows. You get entered for raffles. There's a lot that you get out of this. So these are the folks reaping the benefits and giving some much appreciated support to the show.
Alan W. Wright.
Angelica Wolf.
Oh. Auburn Elvis,
Bill Veer,
Braxton Underwood,
Clinton Robeson,
Captain Entropy,
Clark Westfield,
Dave Collins, Battle Wagon,
Ezra Gallo,
Gary V,
Gene Hendricks,
Gerald Green,
Heinz K,
Jason Keene,
Jason Lady,
Jeremy L. I'm not saying anybody's surname.
Jim Jarman. I hope you like Jim Jarman too.
Jim Meal,
Joe Thomas,
John Watson,
Josh Strickland,
Candace Ward,
Captivating Kathy Bright, the MVP,
Matt and Lissy Paso,
Mark Ross,
Max Traver,
Miranda W.,
PD Devons,
Paul Hicks,
Rick from Jeff and Rick Present,
Rob Morgan,
Samantha Maney,
Sean Urbanski,
Spidey 67,
Spreadsheet,
Steve Cronin,
The Outsider Tim Price,
Tony Pennington.
and Toronto Cop.
If we missed anyone on the list, of course, we apologize. Keep in mind, we record these episodes well in advance of release. So if you're a recent edition, we'll add you soon, but no worries. You can always let us know if we missed you by sending a hate-filled email to contact@longboxcrusade.com, and Pat will get you all squared away. Now, if you're asking yourself, how do I become a Crusaders Club member? That's simple. Patreon.com/longboxcrusade. For as little as $1 a month, you get access to the amazing world of Crusaders Club. Come and check it out.
We didn't come here for the Jackie Chat. We came here for the Jackie Chan. So let's get back to the combat and learn a bit about the film gladiators about to battle for our pleasure.
This episode, I was assigned the year of 2019, which of course I handed over to Siskoid, and he selected for our program for Martial Arts Madness, straight from Korea, Extreme Job. What year did the randomizer select for you, Jason?
Well, I got 1985, handed that date to Siskoid. Siskoid gave me my lucky stars.
All right, fine matchup, folks. Now, it's important to point out this isn't Jared versus Jason versus Siskoid. You know, we got what we got, and we're going to discuss them. We're going to find out, what do we think? Come to a consensus. We're going to find out who the champion of this episode is going to be. Now, as far as where we saw it, Jason, for, mind-boggling reasons, I have this Plex server that contains everything. Why have either one of these? So I had to go to YouTube and watch them, but they're only about $4 a piece. So that's how I did it. What about you, Jason?
I found them both on Amazon Prime, about the same price. I think it was about $4 to watch both of them.
All right. Siskoid, are these in your collection at the house, or did you pay as well?
No, I really wanted to do a blind fire this time. I always know too much. My lucky stars was, one of many films I could have picked. It's not the best film I could have picked, but it's one that I didn't know, and it was on Criterion Channel, which I do stream. So that's where I got that one. And Extreme Job was my second time watching, and that one I got on YouTube.
Fancy. He's got that Criterion Channel. Just when I thought I was fancy with the Plex. Fancy. Anyway, spoilers are coming, folks. This is your spoiler warning. If you want to pause the podcast here, that wouldn't be such a terrible idea. If you want to check out Extreme Job from 2019 or My Lucky Stars from 1985, we will meet you at the other end of this quick musical break. All right, guys, let me jump in with some quick info on 2019's Extreme Job. Editor's note, I hope you are up on your Korean.
234만 원. 오늘 하루 매출액이야. 과연 내가 오늘 몇 개의 테이블 세팅을 쳤을 것 같니?
180도 기름에 데이고 카레에 베이고 얼마나 쓰라린 줄 알아? 아파. 지금 현재도 굉장히 쓰라린 상태야.
소름 돋아. 야, 정신 안 차릴래? 우리가 지금 닭 장사하는 거야? 지금까지 이런 맛은 없었다. 이것은 갈비인가 통닭인가. 아저씨,
저기 앞 건물에서도 가끔 시키고 그래요?
자, 앞건물만 배달시키다 했어.
저희가 입원했습니다!
제가 이 사람 남편입니다.
초짝이 남편이라더만.
전 남편.
오, 아메리칸 스타일.
오늘부터 퇴근 없다. 이거 왜 맛있어?
엄마! 왜 자꾸 장사가 잘 되는데! 떴어!
근데 이 정도 판벌로 누가 있어?
손쉽게 구할 수 있는 보급형 뽕의 시대 내가 다 만들어놨거든.
꾸물거리지 말자. 우리가 잡아야 돼. 내가 지금 경찰이 아니거든.
그럼 뭔데?
닭집 아저씨.
뭐야?
아이고, 이건 또 왜 내려가고 있어요? Cast and crew is as follows, and I just picked one starring role, like the main starring role, because I'm not going to butcher all those names. I'm just going to butcher this one. This was Ryu Seung-ryung. It was directed by Lee Byung-hyun. As far as the synopsis goes, pulling to Jason here. I actually didn't write one down. We're recording this live, so let me tell you. It's about a group of cops that are kind of comically bumbling, and they want to get promoted. So they want to stake out this big-time drug dealer guy, and they find the best place to do it is a chicken joint across the street from his HQ. But they got to start selling chicken to be convincing, and they end up being a lot better at selling chicken than they are at being cops. But you know what? I suspect it's all going to come together in the end. That is my synopsis for Extreme Job. Now, for the interesting trivia. I want to say trivia nugget because it's chicken. Trivia nugget.
That's good. I liked how you decided to wing it too. That was also good.
Oh, man. I love it. Anyway, interesting trivia nugget number 1. It broke the record for the most spectators of a comedy genre movie in Korean film history. And while I was doing that, this is nugget number 2, it became the number 1 sales ranking in the history of Korean films. This killed the box office in Korea, y'all. And I can see why. I'm very excited to talk about it. But you know what? Let's get back to the chicken, okay? Chicken trivia nugget number 3. A total of 463 chickens were used in the movie. And I got to tell you, I was hungry by the end of this one. But with that, it's over to Jason.
All right. So I'll give you fine folks the rundown on 1985's My Lucky Stars. It was quite an ensemble cast, really, but the main people were Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung in the film, and it was directed by Sammo Hung. Synopsis goes a little something like this. So Jackie Chan stars as Muscles. He's a Hong Kong cop operating in Japan, chasing down a bad cop in a ninja gang. It all kind of makes sense. When his partner is captured, Muscles recruits his former no-good friends to help him out. Sometimes it takes a thief to catch a thief, and some kung fu hilarity ensues. The trivia I have includes, this is the first movie to ever cross the Hong Kong $30 million mark at the Hong Kong box office. Nugget number 2, during a break in filming in Japan, Jackie Chan was nearly killed when a mob of fans recognized him, chased him down, and one of them almost choked him to death with Jackie's scarf. And finally, the costume Jackie Chan wore is based on a character featured in Dragon Ball, creator Akira Toriyama's series, Dr. Slump. And now that we have the basics on today's contestants.
All right, here we go. Just a quick reminder, folks. We have 2 films, 5 categories. Jason has not seen my scores. I have not seen his scores. How many times do you think we're going to match? Because it could be up to 10. Place your bet. Speaking of scores, We're doing 1 to 10, 5. That means average. That means it's good. It's like you'd see a decent made-for-TV movie. It entertains you, but yeah, that's about it. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You got yourself a really good film. 4, 3, 2, 1. You have got some things to work on. With all that, let's get into round 1. Round 1 is the story. How engaging or original is the story? We start with our guest, Siskoid. We start in 2019. Extreme Job. Thoughts on the story?
I love this story. It was actually developed by a Chinese and a Korean company so that on each side they would make this movie based on this premise. And I did some extra work. I did watch Lobster Cop, which is the Chinese version. It is lesser in every respect. Everything that's good about Extreme Job, they kind of removed in Lobster Cop. Kind of fun, but nowhere near what Extreme Job is doing. So yeah, this is a story with a lot of twists and turns. You're not quite sure where it's going. These kind of bumbling cops, they screw up an arrest, and then their jobs are on the line from then on. But the characters also have the main guy has a wife at home, and we sort of see that as well. And they pay off everything. That's what I like about it is that sometimes you're just watching a scene and you're wondering, what is that tag she put in his underwear? And it's not really explained, but later on it pays off. Similarly, at the end, these are bumblers, but by the end, you got the other cops in a car saying, well, this guy, he does this and she's like that. And, that's their nickname. And they're telling the rookie cops that these guys can actually take care of themselves. It keeps paying off, especially the big twist, I think, is which they removed from Lobster Cop. The big twist is that the villains start using the chicken joint to distribute drugs. So there's this flip. And the cops don't know.
Poor customer service.
It's good. Yeah, they franchise it, and it's the worst restaurant to go to. So there's a lot of humor in it, but there's pathos as well. And I know there's only maybe 3 pieces of real action in it. But exactly, I think the characters, the story, I think is very strong in this.
Very well said. This is why we have him on the show, and that's why he also podcasts on the Fire and Water Podcast Network. Jason, follow that up.
This was a strong script. The script writer did a magnificent job in pacing, as Siskoid was saying, revealing to us in little segments that lead up to that ultimate action scene in the end and really gives it heft and a payoff. I was amazed at how much heart was in this script. It kind of opened with the bungling cops, and you kind of saw the direction it was going, and you kind of knew, okay, that's funny. They're going to start a chicken joint and become successful. They're going to screw up their way into success here. And it is all funny, but there is a ton of heart in this thing. Zombie, the boss guy, just can't catch a break, man. He just can't catch a break. And he's so world weary, and he wears it so well throughout the course of the movie. His relationship with his wife, his relationship with his daughter, every scene is important. There's nothing wasted, and it's so much showing and not telling. I was legit surprised at how well this script was written and how well the actors carried it out.
Wholeheartedly agree. If you told me in the middle of this bumbling cop chicken caper that I would have real emotions about this cop, and she's like, well, we've got, all your savings, we're going to be good. And he was just like, oh, no, that was so heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. It was an incredibly good job. Let's shift gears to 1985. Let's talk about My Lucky Stars, and the ball goes back to Siskoid's court.
I mean, this is the weakness of this particular movie is the script, is the story. It was made incredibly quickly. I think Sammo Hung, I've watched some interviews, the beauty of Criterion, right? So I got to watch some interviews, and Sammo had done a movie that had done well, and Golden Harvest asked him, through his company. And so Golden Harvest said, hey, we need a movie for Chinese New Year. So make it, and that was 3 months away. So from idea to bringing the film to the theaters, there's only a 3-month period in all. So it shows. I think there's a lot of goofy improv. It starts with a pretty cool action bit, and then you get that saggy middle which is, I don't know, a giant extended sexual harassment joke between these ne'er-do-wells, these guys who met each other at the orphanage, who all became criminals except for Jackie. And Jackie's not there, like Jackie shows up for the action bits, and when there's no action, Jackie is nowhere to be seen. It's really Samo and his irregulars, and they don't particularly get along, and so you get a lot of banter but fighting, and they sexually harass this lady cop who is assigned to them for this mission, and it goes on a long time. And I think Chinese humor is very often very broad, especially when you compare it to the Korean style of humor that we saw in Extreme Job. It's very broad, especially in this era. I don't know. It's like, it's a little heavy going, a little cringy by today's standards, certainly. Yeah. It's got a few bubbly moments. I love the moment where they make a Maggie Cheung joke, which is funny to me because, she was Jackie Chan's opposite number in Police Story, which came out the same year, and also dated Jackie. So it's an inside joke between them. So you can tell there's like inside jokes and stuff. They're really having fun, but does it work as a story today in 2024? I don't think so.
Yeah, Jason and I kind of talk about this privately behind the scenes. We're like, it's you really have to open up your mind and be like, okay, first of all, you have to allow the Chinese humor sensibility, like you talked about, and it was 1985, and it does feel like maybe a bunch of like 14-year-old kids wrote the script part in the middle. So this is very clever. If you open your mind past that, you can have a decent time, but we all noticed it. We were all like, this, okay, okay. But I got to tell you guys, and I got to let Jason talk, but I laughed very heartily at the scene where they were trying to describe to the Japanese guy what food they wanted.
Right.
And old dude got that little mushroom. I was dying. That's the kind of 14-year-old humor I'm here for. Anyway, Jason, what do you got?
Yeah, I think that we don't need to harp on the sexual harassment piece anymore. I will say that I didn't understand. They had a bunch of really good actors in there, but there wasn't anything for them to do productively in the story. I would have taken it one of two directions. I would have had kind of like an Ocean's 11 type story with these guys, giving them all something to do to take down the bad guys to help Jackie Chan out in the final act.
That's what it feels like, right? It's like they're assembling the team.
Right. They assemble the team, but the team doesn't do anything.
No.
Except harass this woman, which we've already talked about.
Yeah, they're patsies. It's like, we're going to attract the big boss because we're going to hang a daring robbery on you, say it in the news, and then these bad guys are going to be interested in you, and it's a lure. It's a honey trap. I guess.
Actually, I think the other route they could have taken, and probably the one I would have preferred, was get rid of all the other guys altogether and really have it be Sammo Hung and Jackie Chan, right? There was a story there that they were trying to touch on where these two had maybe grown up together and their worlds diverged at a certain time. There was a time when they were close. And that's the kind of tension, that's the kind of energy that I was looking for. I would have loved to seen that, where you have a good kind of like the buddy cop type of thing where they hate each other at the beginning and have to come together and reconcile in the end. So there were two paths there that I could see that for a potentially good story. And for whatever reason, they didn't take either of them. So.
Yeah, I think it's like the equivalent is probably like some sort of hangout movie that we have, with SNL stars or something over here, because these guys had all starred in a movie called Winners and Sinners. And then and it's all the same guys. And then they did 5 more. And it's basically the same cast in different kinds of roles. And they became known as the Lucky Stars after this, because this was a monster success over there. So it's kind of why all these guys? Because this is a movie about these actors hanging out together and people enjoy them. It was sort of a phenomenon there in the late 80s.
Well, there you have it. I think we should score these two things.
Let's score them.
All right, Jason, let's double back to Extreme Job on a scale of 1 to 10. We both were pretty taken with the story. What do you got?
This is elite level script writing. This is an 8.
And we match game right off the bat. I also scored it an 8. All right, I think we all know that My Lucky Star is going to suffer from that saggy middle, that, immature bit of it. 'Cause we're basically just waiting for Jackie Chan's return. Yep. But Jason, 1 to 10.
I had to give this one a 4. There wasn't a lot of coherence to the story. There was so much potential there that they could have done and just didn't. So this was a low one for me, 4.
We're not far off. I gave it a 5. I was like, would this be a decent made for TV movie? Yeah. Plus it has Jackie, which I was like pushing towards 6. And then I was like, the immaturity kind of pulled it back. I put it at a 5. And I might have been being a little generous because Jackie Chan's picture's on the cover. Anyway, I feel like this is probably academic, but let's do our first pressure point. Which of these movies would you like to give a bonus point to, Sisquid?
It's got to be Extreme Job.
Makes sense to me. That's it for me. Jason, over to you for round 2.
All right, I got it from here. Round 2 is the hero. So we're going to talk about how cool is the hero or the ensemble of heroes from our 2 films. And again, I'll pass it to Sisquid, and let's talk about the heroes from Extreme Job.
I think we get a nice cast there. You know, all these people, all recognizable faces if you watch any number of Korean movies. Well, that's what I felt was the contrast with the Chinese version when I watched it later. It's like the Chinese did like an exploitation film, but the Koreans seemed to believe this was an elite project for name actors who were in big projects normally. And I mean, they had success with it afterwards. So Captain Ko, aka Zombie, who by the end is actually acting like a zombie and biting the villain. And you don't really see
his bones back in the...
No, yeah, popping his bones back in. You don't really think that's going to happen because he's such a schlub. He's so tired of his job. He's known as Zombie because he's been knifed and shot so many times and never died. And so the people call him Zombie. But he's the center of this. But, you know, the guy who's really kooky and people don't really like him is like the jerk of the team, but he turns out he's born to be a chef. and he's a little dangerous, you know, but they still love him. Like there's a nice family element. The rookie, the guy who maybe has a background. I didn't understand the reference in the movie, but he seems to have maybe a military background or a special ops kind of background. And he's really frustrated with the restaurant business when he wants to go after the bad guys. And you have the lady cop. There's always a lady cop. So the lady cop who is quite violent, you know, quite sarcastic, but they're a little family, you know, at the same time. And when they get to do action, turns out they're awesome. But when they get to do cooking, turns out they're awesome. You know, they're funny. So I really like this bunch of heroes. It's a really nice ensemble. You know, it's not just the hero, it's plural.
100% agree. 100% agree. Won't tag anything on. I just hand it to Jared.
And I don't have a lot to add. What a great ensemble cast. Everyone so unique, yet so team-oriented. Oh, Cisco said it all. It's so much fun, and it works. The whole movie works because of the people they picked. Everyone was outstanding.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We already talked about the script and the cast. Boy, they carried that script all through the movie. Really good job. Well, let's talk a little bit about the heroes from My Lucky Stars. Sisquid, I mean, we got Jackie Chan, we got Sammo Hung, we got a whole host of other folks in there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, we got a lot of people in here. I mean, it's almost, we didn't mention Yun Bu is in this. He's the cop that gets captured. He's not in just that action scene. He's doubling for everyone else during the film. He's the girl. He's a couple of the bad guys. Anytime somebody flips and falls and seems to get really hurt, it's Yun Bu. So, so there is that. But and we get a lot of like comedy stars. Richard Ning, Eric Tsang, who was the amazing villain in the Infernal Affairs trilogy, are in this as well. Sibel Hu is playing Miss Wu. You know, he's got the chops as well. So it's an ensemble cast kind of thing going. You're drawn to Jackie Chan, obviously. When he shows up, you know, the level of action is going to get higher, especially stunt work. Like he's Muscles, but his real name is Kakui, which is also his name in Police Story.
Oh.
So that's a weird... Wait, is this the same cop from Police Story who has gone over to Japan for this one mission? Could be. So I like to think it is. Jackie starred in 4 movies that year. Police Story, this one, The Protector, Heart of Dragon, 5 movies because the Lucky Stars sequel was immediately the same year. So he was in like 5 movies and was the main guy in 2 of them, Police Story and Protector. So, I mean, he was exploding. And he's really good in this, even though he doesn't have much of a character. That's kind of the problem. We don't see enough of him. So I consider Sammo the hero here. And I love to see Sammo move. I think that even though there is this sex pest stuff going on with the characters, he's more the more wholesome of them. Maybe he's the less, he's the more responsible of them and the sweeter of them. And I love that, like the final fight, he's sort of, why is he dressed in the Bruce Lee yellows? It's just funny because it's funny. So it is funny. But essentially, this is a team of Hong Kong cops in sensible sweaters. So it's kind of dated, but it's hard to fault these guys as fighters, as performers. So that may play in my pressure point.
I agree. I mean, without revealing too much, I know I was pretty harsh on the story element of it. I will say, as performers, they all did a really good job. But let's pass it over to Jared to see what he thinks.
I'm not crazy to deny not spot Bolo Young in there, Chinese Hercules himself.
Yes.
Bolo Young cameo. Yeah.
I was like, oh, this movie gets a 10.
Freaking fighting dentists. Anyways, Echo Siskoid, like, it's easy to get hung up on the more sort of juvenile portion of it, but these actors all turn in good performances. They're all giving it their all. And clearly it set box office records and it got sequels. And so you can't poo-poo it. And it's got Jackie Chan in it. So there's going to be some point bonus going on. But I will say, like, it's so unfair to the other guys because this movie starts off and Jackie, we'll get to it, the spectacle and all that stuff. But like Jackie's fighting these guys in like a circus style environment, carnival style environment. And like Jason said, ninjas just show up, and I'm like, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen. And then I'm like, where's Jackie? For a long time. And I feel like it does a disservice to the movie, and it hurts these other guys. That, to Jason's point, if they'd given a better story, it could have gone so much further because the guys are all really good. And I'll shut up about it because we probably need to score these things or something.
Yeah, I think it's about time we wrap it up and give it the score. So, Jared, what are you giving the group of heroes from Extreme Job?
Man, I was not ready to push past Roger Moore in The View to a Kill, which some people say is a 7 and some people say it's a 10. But anyway, I am going with a solid 8, just like I did in the first round for the story. I was like, these guys are really likable, and I would like to see them do more. So a solid 8. Just, we've talked about this before. Ensemble cast can kind of average your score, or it can kind of boost your score. And this was a boost. 8.
Well, we're going to match game again. I gave them an 8 as well. When you have a script that's that well written and you have an ensemble cast, it is very difficult to give everybody something meaningful that sets them apart, and is very difficult for them all to perform well enough to execute that element of the script. And they did it big time. They're in elite level territory. It's an 8 from me. All right, let's go over to Jackie and Sammo and all the rest and My Lucky Stars. We've already kind of said script is a little weak. The Jackie sightings were few and far between here. What'd you give it?
Okay, so Jackie's going to help here because when I watched it again, I was able to kind of separate the performances from the story and be like, these guys are really good. They're a slight cut above made for TV. So it got me to a 6. And then I was like, bookend of Jackie, 7. Elevated it all the way to a 7.
Match game. Yeah, I kind of thought about it like I did the View to a Kill thing. Like, yeah, Roger Moore, the twilight of his career. Does that equal like, I don't know, 40% of the movie with Jackie in it? Yeah, I think so. And the rest of the crew, even though sometimes they didn't have a lot to do, as we talked about with Extreme Jobs, that script gave them a lot, gave everybody something meaningful. This one didn't. But when they were on the screen, there was a lot of energy. There was a lot of fun. And I think their performances warrant a 7. Pressure point. Man, Siskoid, this one's kind of a tough one, man. You got the legend and Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung. He's a bit of a legend. And
yeah, well, the Three Little Fortunes are in there. So, Jackie, Sammo, and Yoon, the Golden Harvest's Golden Boys.
Yeah.
But they're great action stars. And that's the only reason I might give them the pressure point. But you guys convinced me. I mean, just the level of the character depth, the variety, that they're well placed in that story. I'm going to give it to Extreme Job.
Well, there it is. It's in the books, Jared. I'm passing it back to you.
Okay, that must mean it's time for round 3. Round 3 is the villain. How memorable is your villain? How cool is your villain? How menacing is your villain? It's going to be a bit interesting on this, I feel. We'll start with Extreme Job 2019. And Jason, you get to go first this time.
The villain, definitely weaker than the heroes. I think I was so invested in the story of the heroes that the villains were just kind of there. And it's kind of funny because they almost become like a kind of a byproduct after a while, particularly once the chicken business starts hopping. It's like, oh man, it's my shift to go spy on these guys. And it's peak lunch rush hour, man. We got to make some money. So it's a little bit difficult. I definitely got the sense that there's the drug dealers and the thugs, right? That's like the two basic folks. And I love that scene where the boss is like, all right, you guys got to fight, figure out who's the top dog. And the good guys are listening to it on their little surveillance, and they're wanting their side to win. So it's interesting in that you get to understand a little bit about the world of the thugs and the drug dealers. And they had some pretty cool, like that lady assassin. She was badass. So there were some really cool villainous moments in there. But I wouldn't say elite level villainy, but solid.
Yeah, I've felt the same way. I'll toss a Cisco here. I thought they were decent, but they just weren't the straw that stirs the drink. They're just kind of this thing over here. Anyway, Cisco, I bet you've got thoughts.
I agree with you guys that, because of the chicken element, we sort of forget the villains, and they're waiting around for the big boss, Mobe. He's quite cruel. He's quite cold. He has his lady assassin. Soon he almost cut off one of his own guy's legs just to prove a point, just to intimidate the swindler in the story who's going to go and franchise this business. And you get some side villains, Ted Chang, who is like kind of a foolish, I don't know, he's out in a Pizza Hut or something.
He does pizza, all right?
Pizza, okay. So there's, they're losers too in a way. But my favorite villains in all of this is the worst chicken crews in Korea. Once they franchise the place, all the thugs are running the businesses and just they're delivering drugs. Nobody cares about the chicken, but real people are going to these chicken places, and you do see that. And they're horrible. They're horrible to the customers. They don't want to work there. They hate this scheme. And then there's a lot of fun to be had with that part of it. So the villains are part of the comedy. They're part of the comedy. And at the end, when we get the big fight, yeah, the badass bodyguard, she's really deadly. She's really dangerous. But the main bad guy, he gets bitten into submission.
He does. He really does. All right, let's shift gears. Let's go back in time to 1985. And again, kind of interesting with the villainy, but I'll let Jason talk about it.
Kind of like a cartoon villainy, a little bit. But actually, Jackie Chan movies are a little bit like Bugs Bunny cartoons in some way. They're very formulaic, very entertaining. You kind of know what you're going to get. You got the bad cop, you got the dude with the eye patch, and then you got ninjas just popping up randomly. So, I mean, is it deep? No. Is it fun? Heck yeah.
That's about right. Just go ahead.
The big boss in this is even less. Like, at least in Extreme Job, the big boss was a name actor, someone who was in almost all of Park Chan-wook's movies, except Old Boy, which is the one people know. But in here, the chief of the Scarecrow Club, whatever, like really nothing. What's interesting is exactly what Jason was saying. The notable henchman, Eye Patch, the muscled croupier, the crooked cop. The guys in the ski masks were probably all the same guys, but
the bodybuilder lady, man, she was
the ponytail, the blue ninjas. Michiko Nishiwaki a real power lifter, a real weightlifter. And this is her film debut. Sammo Hung found her in some magazine or something, called her up. She's been in tons of movies as a stunt person since Charlie's Angels, the 2001. She's been in a Lethal Weapon. Recently, she was in Everything Everywhere at Once. So she's been having a career in the States since then, and she's still in shape. But I think she's the one that's most striking. They have her do the tricks with the dice in the gambling den, and then later, I think they cut away to a real expert because it cuts to the hand, but that's really smooth gambling stuff there. And then when she fights, it's like she's always like power posing before she goes after the person. And that's how Sammo gets her, pops her while she's posing. But she's real tough before then, But all of these guys are just distinctive enough that you feel, okay, there's like a mini fight boss, another mini fight boss, and like, let's beat this guy up, and we do recognize them. So I think in terms of a fun group of video game bad guys or something, this one is fun.
Well, so I like your video game analogy. It's spot on. All right, Jason, let's score these things. Go back to Extreme Job 2019. Villainy gets outshined by the heroes, but they're part of the comedy. Cisco had said, where are you going to land on a 1 to 10?
I'm going to give them a 6. I mean, they're functional. I don't think we're getting near elite level, but 6 seems fair to me.
Match game number 4 for the episode. Also scored them a 6. I kind of always do the same thing. Like, I watched it a couple days ago, and then when I do my score sheet right before we record, I'm like, we always ask, how memorable is your villain? And I go, oh, yeah, I remember that guy. And I was like, yeah, it's 6. He could have been played by anybody to me. Like, yeah, but he did his job, and he did pretty well. And he got that bump for that super badass female ninja. I don't know, words. She was awesome.
She's deadly.
I was like, dang, she's not. I like how he's like, she's laying fools out. He's like kind of just mimicking, pretending he's doing her moves behind her. I thought that was kind of funny. So good enough to get it above average to a 6 as well. All right, my lucky stars 1985, Jason, 1 to 10.
Giving that one a 6 as well for, like we said, not anything, there's no Academy Award winning performances, but they sure are fun and it makes for a great finale.
I was a little grumpier than you. I gave it a 5. I thought, this good for made for TV stuff, but couldn't remember them. Aside from Muscle Bound Lady, who was pretty cool. So I was like, I can't really remember anybody. Like, I couldn't remember who the main villain was. I'm like, who's the main? I couldn't remember. So I said, it's good for made for TV. Gave it a 5. But there is a pressure point to be given here, and Siskoid has a decision to make.
What I decided before the show, and I'm going to go with it, was to give it to Lucky Stars. And just because of Michiko Nishiwaki. I mean, just because of her and her presence. And I liked her in interviews and the interviews that were on the streamer. I just liked her spirit as a person as well. I love the actor who plays the villain in Extreme Job. But end of the day, I thought, well, if it's just going to be these Hong Kong action stars mowing through a bunch of bad guys, and they all look distinctive, which is not something we can say of the bad guys, of the thugs in Extreme Job. So I'm going to give it to Lucky Stars.
That's fair enough. And that's the end of my round. So it's back to Jason for round 4.
All right. Now we're getting into the fun stuff. Round 4 is the overall spectacle. So how engaging is the film overall? We're talking about stunts and effects, cinematography, all that fun stuff that goes into making a movie great. And we'll mix it up a little bit here and let Jared go first and talk a little bit about the overall spectacle of Extreme Jobs.
It's very solid. I think it's well filmed. I don't have any super memorable music playing in my head right now, but I do remember watching it going, this music is pretty cool. Good music for the different scenes. So I think it did good on music, very good on cinematography. When it comes to the action beats, which of course we'll get into more detail in the next round, but those were extremely well done, very enjoyable, very solid package that they put together as far as spectacle. And I think the thing I want to say the most about the spectacle is we talked about My Lucky Stars kind of has that saggy middle. There's a very potential for a saggy middle here where we're just watching cops run a chicken joint, but somehow they made that engaging. That was engaging and funny because they were like, we got to get back to being cops. And they were like, let's raise the price on this chicken. Didn't work. Oh, we're going to sell 50 chickens a day. Didn't work. They just couldn't price themselves out of the chicken business because it was too good. And that just made it funny. It just holds together really, really well. So that says good stuff about him.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jared. It's both of these films had action up front and action in the end, and a little bit of a middle where you don't have a ton of action-like spectacle. And yeah, it's a really good point. One seems to hold up a little better than the other. But Siskoid, what do you think? What were your thoughts of the spectacle of Extreme Job?
I mean, Jared said it all, but I think the main thing, and I watched this with other people the first time around, is that I would eat that chicken. I was desperate to try that chicken.
Chicken looked good.
Right. So this is one of my favorite subgenres in Asian cinema, the food movie. And I like it when it's done like Western style as well. I love food movies, especially if they're really well made. You just want to eat that food. It doesn't matter. And especially in Asia, it's like, I don't know what that actually tastes like. I'm not sure what that is, what they're doing to that chicken in this case, or sometimes it's meals that we just don't do, right? We don't have that. So, yeah, it worked for me on that. It's not often that it also works with taste, where you're salivating during the movie. Mm-hmm. So that's part of the spectacle. It's one of the senses that's not often activated.
Really good point. Yeah, I felt the same way, man. I saw that chicken and I wanted to try it out. Seemed pretty good. Well, Jared, let's move on over to My Lucky Stars. What do you think of the spectacle there?
All right, so this is going to be interesting because this one does have more of the saggy middle where I was a little more tempted to pick up my phone. Like, okay, I get what's going on. Let me look and see who liked my latest tweet on the Twitter, or whatever, right? I stayed with it, though. I didn't leave it. I think we talked about how they're very similar in format with action bookends with a comedy middle. So the flip here is My Lucky Stars, the comedy middle does not work nearly as well as Extreme Job, but the action bookends with Jackie Chan work better. So it's like we did this better, but they did that better. That might be a hint that I got a tie score coming.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing, but let's see what Siskoid has to say.
Well, I think in terms of spectacle, the Bolo Young cameo has to count among, it's like something that surprises you. It comes out of nowhere. Oh my God, that's Bolo Young beating up a dentist, or not the dentist, one of our guys posing as a dentist. One of the things that I was noticing, like I said, this was my first time watching it in that first block, that first action block, is how much Sammo shoots for comedy. Fun framings, like the guys are there and like the roller coaster shapes are behind them exactly where they're well positioned. Yes, he cuts for the funny, what's going to be like amusing. And in his action scenes, there's a lot of that. I mean, I love the bit in the final fight where they're all doing like the irregulars. They're all doing the, I don't know, they're mimicking some sort of kung fu moves, and they're doing 5 Venoms. And I love 5 Venoms, which is a similar franchise. Let's put these guys, the 5 Venoms are in a bunch of movies, 5 Elemental Ninjas, 5 Crippled Avengers. It's something like that. It's similar to Lucky Stars, the kind of format, same guys, different stories. So I love like those little moments that he brings. But it's like Jared says, like those things work and happen in the action scenes. And then when we're in that comedy middle, there is some of that, but there's also a lot of, like let's do a sketch. It's a Saturday Night Live sketch that goes on too long.
Exactly. Yeah.
Probably one of those ones in the last half hour of the show. That's where there's still some funny, amusing bits within that, in the way it's shot, or when they're all under the covers of the bed and you can't tell. She goes on the bed to sleep and they're all underneath, but you don't really know. And then they come out, it almost seems like they were pranking the actress at that moment. You're not even sure if she knew that's what's going to happen. So the spectacle, it's comedy spectacle, but injected into the action scenes. And they're actually in Japan. So, let's go abroad. Let's do locations that we don't have access to normally. The fight in the funhouse with the creepy, all sorts of weird places in there, which were probably shot in Hong Kong. They were in Japan like 2 weeks. Shooting. So there's a lot more visual stuff happening, whereas Extreme Job is more grounded. It's in Seoul, in a certain neighborhood. It's in the real world, whereas this, not so much.
Yeah, I think for me, like I was emotionally invested in the Extreme Jobs guys. And while it was funny, the chicken business starting to creep into their cop day-to-day business, it was also causing tension. It was also causing tension within the group. And Captain Zombie there, he's finally making money. He's finally able to give his wife things that he couldn't give her before. And things are picking up on the home front for him, but he's still like, but I'm a cop, so there was that dramatic tension that kept you engaged throughout the middle of the film, which I just didn't quite feel with my Lucky Stars. But at any rate, I think the only thing we have to do now is let's rate them. Jared, what did you give for spectacle for Extreme Job?
I gave it a 7. I thought that was pretty fair. The action scene bookends, especially the last one, kind of make me want to go more, but I'll save that for the action scene round. But, riding the roller coaster of chicken and action, which is just fun to say because it's a fun movie. Solid 7. Solid 7 for me.
That's another match game. I gave it a 7 as well. I think the thing that really kind of beefed it up for me, or chickened it up for me, maybe the term, is the fact that like throughout the entire course of the movie, we've seen these guys bungle their whole way. So when it comes time for that group of, 5 or 6 of them to square off against, I don't know, 30, 40 bad guys, you're like, oh no, these guys are a bunch of goof-offs. But then it's like, wait. And so that last act, you're like, this is what they're born to do, man. They were just laying waste to folks. There's a lot of joy that gets lifted because you're thinking, oh, this is going to end badly for them. You're like, well, maybe not so much. So anyway,
yeah, one dude helping him tie up other dudes.
Right, the guy was like, I'm going to sneak in and stab him, and he's like, you want to help me out? He's like, throws the knife. I was dying, man.
You're right about that. That's a part of the pacing because there's a lot of in the middle where we're denied.
Right.
Where there's about to be a fight and then it cuts away from the fight. It cuts for the joke. It cuts to the humor of it. They're running after a guy, he gets hit by a bus. We're denied a lot of violence, not shown. And, we're just afterwards. Maybe that helps us. It helps us at the end to be much more satisfied.
Yep. Those guys were born to mix it up. That's for sure. Well, at any rate, let's switch over and talk about My Lucky Stars. Jared, what'd you give the spectacle there?
Before I do that, I want to lift up Extreme Job for one other spectacle thing that I forgot to mention. I definitely wanted to mention. We talked about how we watched it. I watched it on YouTube, where it's in Korean with subtitles. And the fact that I'm laughing out loud on the regular, reading jokes that translate, from Korean sense of humor to American, that's hard to do. And I think that deserves an accolade and spectacle. Anyway, let me get back on topic. My Lucky Stars, which I think I also watched that with subtitles as well.
Yeah. The only way to watch these movies.
Okay, fair enough. Yes. And 7. It's also going to get a 7 spectacle. Like I said, I told you I was going to have 2 of the same scores. I feel like Lucky Stars, its action was even better than Extreme Jobs. Its comedy not as good, but it balanced out, and I'm at a 7.
That's another match game. I agree. I think the action elements, the spectacle elements we got from My Lucky Stars was all high quality. Would I like to have Jackie Chan in there from across the board? Sure. But from what I got, it was a lot of fun. I mean, how many Jackie Chan movies have we seen where he's like shooting people with guns, stabbing them with swords, and jujitsuing them all at the same time? I was like, this is amazing stuff. And that car chase at the beginning, that was some legit car chasing. You just can't flaw them for shortcutting on the action elements. So 7 for me as well. All right, Siskoid, that leaves it up to you. I mean, this is a tough one, I think. I mean, we got 2 good spectacle type movies, a little different flavor for each one. Curious where you're going to put your pressure point.
As much as I think that Extreme Job is the best made movie, I don't necessarily consider it a spectacle movie. It feels too grounded for what I would call spectacle. Whereas My Lucky Stars is trading on spectacle. It's about spectacle. Even the jokes that don't work for us, that's spectacle. It's like we don't care about the plot. Let's do a gag. And that's all spectacle. So where it fails in story, it replaces it, lifts it up with spectacle. I'm going to give it to My Lucky Stars.
No, that's fair. All right, Jared, it's in the books. It's over to you.
That must mean it's time for round 5.
But your style is no match for mine.
Round 5 is best action scene, where, I toss it back to Jason. Now, luckily, Jason doesn't have a ton of action scenes to pick from, which is odd for an action film face-off movie. But listen, before we even start talking about it, all right, if you get into Extreme Job and you be like, I heard this on Action Film Face-Off, there's not enough actions movie, just wait to the end, okay? It's worth it. It's going to pay off. But anyway, so let's go to Jason and let him outline the action scenes that he thinks deserve a little focus from Extreme Job. Jason, what do you got?
So really, I think there's only 2. I think that there's the spectacle at the beginning with the bungled raid, which was just funny. I call that opening raid, or Korean traffic is brutal.
Was it a village bus? School bus?
That one was a village bus. Later, a school bus also helps out.
So your other choice is the final brawl, that whole final brawl. Or I call that one, let's fight, or are you chicken?
Oh! Jason, I suspect your favorite action scene is mine and Cisco. It's all going to be final brawl. Let's fight, or are you chicken? Is anyone going to deny this?
No, that was that was worth the price of admission.
Cisco, are you going to deny final brawl is the best scene?
I was dividing it differently. Obviously, I think in the middle there is a tiny fight in the pizza joint where the bodyguard kind of really puts the hurt on some guys, so it sets her up. That final brawl is amazing because it's 5 people and one of them is severely wounded. He's just had a fight that we did see, like a short little fight as a prelude, as a as an appetizer.
Yeah.
It's like it's them versus dozens of guys. And then you also get inside of that, the fight with the bodyguard. And then you get the fight on the boat, the zombie fight. That's all part of that giant set piece. So yeah, no, obviously, if you get to the end of this movie, you realize, okay, that's why it's in the action category.
Payoffs, like Cisco had said. It's all about payoffs. All right, Jason, let's switch to My Lucky Stars. Similarly, bookended action scenes. What do you got?
I've got actually 4 that I counted in this one. The first one was the very opening, the car chase and the amusement park fight. I called that one, You Amuse Me.
It's not mutual.
All right, number 2 is that fight in the apartment where Jackie Chan finally comes back, where they're fighting all those folks in the apartment. So I just call that one, hooray, Jackie's back. that was my reaction. So number 3, where Jackie goes through the horror chamber. I call that one, I'm Jackie Chan. I got me a black belt, steel sword, and 6 pieces of hot lead. Bring your
and a mascot's outfit.
That's right. That was funny.
That's a crazy fight. Yeah.
And then the 4th one, because it was crazy, I just called that one the final melee or brawl for it all.
Love it. Which one was your favorite, Jason?
I really liked that horror room.
Yeah, I did too.
Like, I thought that was so cool. I'm going to go with that one.
Atmospheric, edgy, fun, like not totally typical Jackie.
I know.
But yeah. Yeah. Anyway, Cisco, what was your favorite?
I have a lot of affection for the final fight. The 5 Venoms joke, Sammo and Bruce Lee's yellow outfit. Everybody's got a little bit to do. You've got the muscled woman fighting the lady cop, and then eventually he gets her Indiana Jones style. So I have a lot of affection for that. It's got a lot of moving parts, but also I kind of agree with you guys that the Funhouse fight has like the images I'm going to remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're fighting in different weird environments. It feels like you're in some sort of Batman villain lair. It's a little bit James Bond,
Like, yeah, it did have kind of like Man with the Golden Gun.
Right. It's really stylized in that sense. So I think, I'm going to say it's that one.
Awesome. All right, let's do some scoring. Going back to Extreme Job. Man, that end was really cool. Cool to the tune of what, Jason?
I'm going to give it an 8. I think overall it was a 7, but there's a scene in there when the bad guy's escaping on the boat and he's like looking one way, and then our boy just has that stare look and goes like by him, and Drake and I just both busted out laughing. That was so funny. So
well, that is match game number 7, and you and I have match gamed on every round for Extreme Job, by the way. What about my lucky stars? You and I really both like the imagery and the excitement of that Japanese House of Horrors fight. What do you got?
I'm giving that one an 8 as well. I mean, I've never seen Jackie Chan. Like, most of the time when I see Jackie Chan, he like punches people into submission or uses objects that are around him to restrain people or things like that. So to see him like busting cabs and swinging a sword, I was like, this is a side of him I haven't really seen too much before. So 8 from me.
Match game to end it all. So yeah, I got it an 8 as well. So strong action on both of them. You know who I don't envy is Siskoid has to tell me and you and our listeners which of these two movies had better action scenes. Good luck, Siskoid.
I mean, you scored them the same, right? So there's no shame for the loser here. I love Sammo's choreography. That's for sure. I mean, that's one of the reasons that Jackie is using swords and stuff like that. You know, like Sammo is very traditional martial arts, you know, the 12 weapons of Shaolin, that kind of stuff that he brings into it. You know, and he himself, apparently there's like hundreds of takes for everything that we see. It must have been insane on that schedule. And they're probably all bruised. There's a lot of craft there. But it's a lot of little isolated little moments. Whereas you guys, the more you talk about it, it's like, yeah, and you're convincing me that Extreme Job deserves this pressure point. It's just more focused, more surprising. And you don't know exactly what the abilities of these people are. And then to end it on a completely crazy zombie fight where our hero acts like a zombie, that's the thing that's going to stay with me. So, yeah, I'm going to give it to Extreme Job this time.
Wow. All right.
Against a lot of Hong Kong powerhouses.
Wow, that is impressive. And it was certainly fun to watch. And I like how, again, every little detail of Extreme Job was great. I like how he embraced the fact that his nickname was Zombie. And he was just like, he was talking himself up. He was like, I can't be killed. I can't be killed.
Yeah, I'm not going to die. I'm not going to die. Yeah.
And then he was like, what kind of man are you? He was like, I'm a chicken man. Like, this movie's great. Anyways, we can rehash the whole thing.
We got to talk about the guy, like the judo guy that singled out the one guy that called him ugly. And just walk through the whole fight just to flip this guy like 50
Yeah, he was following him around. It's like, leave me alone, leave me alone.
And finally the guy's like just giving him his arm so he
can flip him.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's stuff like that, you know.
Listening audience, I know these are sort of offbeat, not mainstream films, and that's why we have Siskoid on. Watch Extreme Job, Phil. God, it's so good.
It's awesome.
It's so good. That's the end of the action scene round.
Well, I guess that means there's only one round left, and that's the deduction round, the round for the ridiculous. Now, I know we've talked a lot about the sexual harassment, bits of uncomfortability in My Lucky Stars. I feel like I took that out on my score for the script, but Jared, what do you got?
I took it out on the story portion of it. I don't see me needing to take any points off of either of these films. Really, nothing stands out to me. Did I miss anything, Jason, that jumped out at you? We kind of like our military stuff, but I wasn't really paying attention to that. I didn't care what weapons they were using or anything. I just like enjoying myself. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like we talked about with Jackie Chan movies. You kind of gotta, we talk about we take our action seriously, but Jackie Chan is like watching Saturday morning cartoons. You just kind of gotta turn your brain off and enjoy it. And My Lucky Stars was, well, like we talked about, it was just well crafted from beginning to end. So nothing for me either.
Any airing of grievances from you, Siskoid? You get to complain about anything before?
Well, I might complain about the future. Extreme Job is in development, a American version starring Kevin Hart. Guys, Just read the subtitles. Just watch the original.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he can make it funny, and I think the success there will be if he takes a good premise and then makes a Kevin Hart movie. I think that could work, but like Cisco had said, go check out the source material because it's incredible. It's so much fun to watch. All right, that is the end of our official rounds. All right, folks, don't worry if you have not been keeping up with that math, because we do it for you here at Action Film Face Off. Let's check in on Match Game real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 match games on this one. Boy, if you turn it into a drinking game, do not drive home. So 8 match games. Let's check in on those pressure points. At the end of the day, Siskoid gave 3 bonus points to Extreme Job and 2 to My Lucky Stars. And looking at the judges' scorecards, the winner of this episode of Action Film Face Off with a score of 77 to 72 is Extreme Job.
Oh. Well, congratulations to Extreme Jobs. Now it's time to head over to the randomizer and find out what the years are going to be for our next episode. My brother Jared will be pulling a film from
Choose your destiny.
2003, and I will bring a film from
Choose your destiny.
2011. What will those films be? Well, Jared doesn't watch anything post 1990, so we know it'll be new for him.
So very excited.
And when we figure it out, we'll tease them on social media for those of you who want to watch before listening. And we're thinking of you, Dave. Or you can tune in next episode and just find out. Until then, I'm Jason Weasel Skull Albrick, and you can find me on social media at Jason Albrick on Instagram and on Threads.
And you can find me, Jared Albrick, the Yard Sale Artist, a.k.a. Death Probe, at Yard Sale Artist on X, Facebook, Instagram. You can check out my artwares at www.theyardsaleartist.com. I want to thank our annual MARCHial Arts Madness guest once again. Siskoid, tell people where they can find you.
In the writing arena, I am at siskoid.blogspot.com. So I'm always reviewing movies and other things. And then in the podcastosphere, it's fireandwaterpodcast.com, where I have a number of shows. The closest to this is Siskoid Cinema. It's the Siskoid Cinema feed, which has a number of shows, including one that is devoted to Kurt Russell. So that's the closest to Action Film Face.
I approve. I don't have a crush on him or anything.
I do.
I probably do.
Why not?
Heavily implies I have a crush on him.
Yeah.
I love you, Kurt Russell.
He's the best around.
Be sure to check out all the shows under the Longbox Crusade umbrella by subscribing to Longbox Crusade on all the finer podcatchers and some of the sketchier ones. And of course, we're also doing this on YouTube. You can check us out directly at www.longboxcrusade.com. You want to send us a question or a comment, you can do that in lots of different ways. You can hit us up on social media using Longbox Crusade. That's X, Facebook, Instagrams, all at Longbox Crusade. Of course, on YouTube, you can comment there as well. You can also, if you're messing around on X, just go directly to at AFFO Podcast. We have our own feed there, so it's a little more direct to us if you want to do it that way. And if you really want to get direct, leave us a voicemail. 707-532-5269. 707-532-LBOX.
Pick up the phone.
Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you listening. Until next episode, keep your head down
and your knuckles up.
The intro and outro theme to this show and all of our Action Film Face-Off shows are done by musical genius Joe November. Check out his SoundCloud at JOSEFLIN99. You will not regret it.
She's gonna blow him away.
You're supposed to let me finish it off.
And Jared, I want you to know that you are not a weirdo.